Hey everyone, welcome back to the weekly wellness podcast here at My Pets Wellness. I'm Dr. Jason Epstein, our Executive Medical Director. Joining me this week is Dr. Rodney, our Director of Wellness and Personal Growth. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing fine.
Good. As you can see, Kevin is not here this week, so I'm subbing in for him yet again. Hopefully I'll do the job justice. So
You'll do fine.
We'll see. So this week, the topic of the week is New Year's resolutions. I'm personally terrible at these. If I set one, I won't stick to it. So for the last decade, I probably just haven't set one. But I've never really stopped to think about whether or not they're good for us to do, whether they're actually contributing or worsening to our mental health. And that's one of the things we kind of want to talk about. So I guess the first question we'll start with is, are New Year's resolutions healthy?
They can be healthy
Okay.
if you don't have too high of expectations, because your experience is not abnormal. Many people go through the process of making New Year's resolutions. I even do myself. But if you have the expectation that I'm going to actually follow through entirely with a New Year's resolution, it can lead to depression because 4 to 6 to 8 weeks later, you find out you're not doing it anymore. So the problem is not in the New Year's resolution itself. It's in the expectation that I'm actually going to follow through and complete it. I mean, the statistics are overwhelming. We've done research on this. Everybody, common one is, I'm going to go back and start going to the gym and exercising. So you go back after January 1st to the gym, and there's people all over the place, and everybody's waiting on machines and weight equipment and treadmills and ellipticals. And then that pretty much goes through all of January, and then starting in February, people start dropping off. And by March, you can pick any machine in the whole place you want to use.
Yeah.
That is the typical thing.
Yep.
It's not necessarily bad as long as you didn't go in there with the expectation, I'm going to fulfill it. Because then you get depressed in March because you're saying, oops, I failed again. But this is not about failure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess it's all about what standards you're going to hold yourself accountable to. Because luckily, I haven't cared much that I've managed to not stick with any of mine. And I couldn't tell you one because I couldn't remember the last time I did one.
Well, okay, can I jump in on that?
Of course.
They do have value, though.
Okay.
It's a significant value, but it's not related to following through with it, okay? So I'm going to encourage you to start doing it even if you never follow through with it. Because that's, I think, what's wrong with the thinking of what they actually accomplish. I don't think it's as much as following through with it as it is the process of making it. So what I'm saying is the value comes if I do it every year. I spend some time, late December, starting to think about what I might make as my resolution. And the way I'm going to do that is by looking at my past year, what things I'm happy with, and then what things I'm not happy with. And then saying, okay, since I'm not happy with this part of my life, let's go back to the exercise. I'm gaining too much weight and I need to exercise more. So I'll make a New Year's resolution and go on that path. So what I'm doing is I'm not focusing on the benefit from following through because it's very unlikely that you will. The benefit comes from that time of reflection that I think we need all the time, probably many times throughout the year, but especially at the end of the year where we go, I wonder how things are going with my weight, with my relationships, with my home life in general, with the balance between work. That's the positive part about it, which it's a time of the year when we can have a time of reflection. And unfortunately, there's many people who don't make New Year's resolutions and they never do any reflection. To me, that's the tragic part, because then they just keep doing the same thing over and over again every day of every year and nothing ever changes. Changes only come with the reflection, considering what I might need to change. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting perspective on it. I've never really taken the time, I think, to appreciate the value of that time of reflection. But there have been multiple experiences in my life where that was a forced part of a process or a forced part of something. I could get onto tangents here, but I'll try not to. So when it comes to this process of self-reflection, are there certain certain resolutions that are better or worse from a mental health perspective? Are there things that we as professionals or just people in general should be cautious of as far as resolutions to set that are maybe better or worse?
Well, the worst ones are one that sets a bar so high that I'm never going to achieve it in a billion years. So let's go back. So here's what, I'm not going to say there's a category, but if I decide, I wasn't even planning to do the exercise thing, but I guess we're doing it now, aren't we? But so let's say that I want to lose some weight. So I make a New Year's resolution that I'm going to go to the gym every day for 2 hours. I'm going to run 25 miles a week on the treadmill. And I'm also going to work on my lower and upper body strength. That is a bad resolution because I'm going from nothing to way up here. A good resolution is, okay, I want to work on my health. My goal is to go once a week, maybe more, but once a week, I will be on the treadmill for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to do some weight training exercises for another 15, and I'm out 1 week, 35 minutes. Now, in that area, you probably need a little bit more than that, but you don't need an expectation so high that you'll never meet it. So that's where the problem comes in. If I set it too high and I can't meet it, I get depressed. I get anxious. I get down on myself. I create the stress for myself, and I'm beating myself up because I didn't follow through. But now, come on. You can go once a week for a half an hour.
Yeah.
Is that more attainable?
Yeah.
Because what we know is why most New Year's resolutions begin to fail is because the person sets too high of an expectation. They try at the beginning, and then they're not meeting that expectation that they set for themselves. Yeah. So they go into this role of, well, I'm never going to be able to meet it, so I might as well give up trying. Yeah. And then they stop. So you got to give, So let's go to a different area.
So that makes sense. So it doesn't matter if, just to pull from that. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about your fitness, your mental health, an addiction you struggle with, or a personal, professional goal. It's not that there's necessarily a specific category to avoid. Don't make resolutions about bettering your anxiety. Don't make resolutions about, having a job that pays more. It could be anything that we feel like would be a place to grow from self-reflection. Just make it realistic in order to where, as long as you make progress towards it, you feel like that's an accomplishment. Don't set the bar so high that you're going to fail no matter how much success you may have.
Yeah. So let me go on a different category because I think this is all helpful by way of explanation. What my opinion is, and it is an opinion, what the difference is between a good New Year's resolution that will help you and build you up and a bad one that's going to defeat you and lead to depression. So let's say you're lonely, or now let's not go loneliness. I don't do the dating thing. Let's just say I always staying in my house. I never go out. I never do anything. I just sit and watch TV, that kind of thing. So my New Year's resolution becomes, I want to get out more. And then your New Year's resolution ends up being something like 5 nights a week, I'm going to be out and around with other people. You'll never do it. Because you might try the first week and you might get, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday, okay? But then as soon as you start getting behind, you're going to say, I give up. So how do you make it a better New Year's resolution? My New Year's resolution is I need to get out more. If I can get out just 1 night a week and meet new people and do different things, that would make me happier. Now, is that doable? Because now I can pick Monday night or Tuesday night or Wednesday night or Thursday night or Friday night or Saturday night. And so if I book the other nights or if I'm tired of the other nights, I'm okay because all I have to do is get one. Then when I get 1 a week, I feel good about myself. I'm achieving my goal. And then I'll keep on with the process.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really valuable tool for everyone to really take and use moving forward. That it's about not setting the bar so low that it's like, I'm going to go out once this year, but it's going to be a point of growth. It's going to be accomplishment that you can feel good about. It's going to add to your self-worth and kind of how you feel. And then it's something you can get. You can do this. Right. You don't don't set yourself up to fail. That's a great lesson.
I admit my illustrations are focusing on the two extremes. There is a good place right in the middle of those expectations. The important thing is you have to understand or have to work through how realistic is it for me to actually do this. Because if when you look at it, you say, oh my gosh, that's going to be really hard, then lower the expectations. Not so low that you might as well not even make any choice, but give you something to shoot at that you can hit.
Yeah. So when those of us out there here have a resolution we're working towards, we're a few months in and maybe we've achieved it. Maybe we're going out once a week. Maybe and we feel the same way. Like, I'm still pretty lonely and bored. I'm out once a week. It's not really making a difference. I'm just going to stop bothering. So, if we're not getting what we wanted out of it, or maybe we set the bar a little high, but we felt like it was realistic, and we're, someone's on the verge of just being like, I'm moving on, I'm done. What are some of the ways that people can motivate themselves, hold themselves accountable to stick with their resolutions?
Well, I don't think it's always the best choice to just give up trying, because that leads to that sense of I failed. But most people do give up trying. I think that when you come up with that resolution based upon a personal reflection over the last year of my life, and I think that this will make me happier. If I go with your illustration and I've done it for 3 or 4 months and I've actually achieved it, but it's not bringing me happiness, well then I don't think the response is, well, just do it even more to see if that makes me happy. Obviously, I would say the initial reflection, although genuine, was not accurate in what's going to produce the happiness that you need to produce. So then at that point, I wouldn't wait till the next January 1st, because I'm going to continue on with my theme of I'm trying to make changes in my life. So then in the end of March, I'll go through the process again. So that didn't work to bring me my happiness. What else is there that might be related to that might be a better way to bring happiness? I'm just making this up as I go along.
I know. Examples are fun.
Well, maybe related to that is I just like to connect with some of my own friends that I left back home in my hometown that I haven't seen for many years. See, it's really kind of the same thing, because at least it's getting me out and connecting with people. So then I'll take the one is I'll go out at least 1 night a week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and find out where all these people are that I've been missing. And once a week, I'll call somebody that I haven't had any contact with in the last, several years.
Yeah.
See, so you just keep tweaking it, I think, until you find something. I think eventually you're going to find something that brings you some sense of joy. Again, as long as your expectation is it's going to make me so happy I can't stand it. Okay? Yeah. What you really want is just a little bit better quality of life.
Yeah.
Not like from here to here. Here's cool, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
That's the way I would answer that.
So I guess the one area I want to touch on as well is, one of our big missions is mental health. Mm-hmm. One of the things we struggle with in the veterinary field is mental health, whether it's from an anxiety perspective or depression or burnout or compassion fatigue or whatever it may be. We tend to be a group that struggles. Mm-hmm. And what do you have to say to, not just, we'll say veterinarians in particular, but anyone that is making a decision at a point of reflection, I'm going to work on my mental health. What are some of the things that what would be your starting advice? My question is, do we need to go and get diagnosed to know what the problem is so we can get help? Because that's my doctor brain. Are there things that what's your starting point when someone knows I'm not okay, but I want to be better, and that's as far as they've gotten for that resolution of I want to work on my mental health? Where do we start?
Yeah. Well, it depends obviously on what is the level of mental health disruption that you're feeling. You could go get a therapist and meet with them once a week. That would be helpful, but it doesn't need to necessarily be that level of person. Most mental health issues, we believe, are healed by processing the feelings that I have related to that problem with other people that I find that are safe in my life. So it could be a therapist, or maybe, if you want to pay a little less, go find a life coach that's going to listen to you, and you could discuss that with them. And again, they don't need to diagnose you have a special degree unless it's very severe. Or it doesn't even have to be a life coach. I just find somebody that's willing to listen, show some sympathy and empathy to how I'm feeling. That could be an enormous help. If you do that, maybe you start at the lower level of, I'm just going to find a friend that's not going to judge me and criticize me. They're going to be open to listening to what I say and give me a little bit of feedback. If you start there and I'm still feeling the anxiety, the depression, the stress, the compassion fatigue, then I'm going to have to take the next step up and say, well, maybe I will go to somebody that spends time doing this all day, every day, which is like a life coach. And then if that's still, you still find yourself not reaching the level of mental health satisfaction that you want, then you're probably looking at a professional to do that. You can't ignore the problem because the problem just gets worse. When I have a mental health issue, it's like I'm very much aware of it. If I try to invalidate it and say it's not there, or if I try to ignore it and say it doesn't matter, it's like I still feel it in here. And what you actually do is daily hear the screams of, I'm in pain. Okay, so that's not the way to do it. Yeah. So it's really just by gradual process. I probably started that explanation in the reverse order that I should have. I started with a therapist.
Yeah.
What I'm really saying is start at a lower level, find somebody who feels safe. If that doesn't work, go to a higher level like a life coach. Then you're up to the therapist. And then you're up to the psychiatrist.
Yeah. So the decision to work on your mental health may just be reaching out to an old friend that you've known your whole life and saying, hey, I've been struggling this year.
Exactly.
I need somebody to talk to that's not my spouse that I don't dump onto. Can I talk to you once a week? Like, can we just catch up more often? And that's your person. If that doesn't work, maybe a resource like our support group is a place to start too.
Support group would be a good place to start also.
Yeah. So that's, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Rodney runs a wellness rounds or support group for the vet community on our DVM support network. I'm there almost every week, and we're excited to see it growing and kind of taking off and becoming potentially a starting point for anyone out there that's wanting to start their mental health journey. So awesome. Well, I had one question that came up before we go. You mentioned that the key to these healthy resolutions is you get to the end of the year and you have this time of reflection. Mm-hmm. So for those of us who haven't been doing resolutions, or even those that have, what are some of the ways that you would recommend we go about that reflection process? What are the things that it's important to think about and not mull over, but things to kind of process and reflect on in our last 6 months when we're developing a plan? When we're going to sit back and go, well, let's think about 2020. Maybe don't. But let's think about my last year, informing what I need to be better. What are some of the tools for that reflection?
Well, okay, so here's what I think is a good method to use. I start with the personal reflection myself. I look at the various key areas of my life, which in general is, how do I feel personally? How do I feel I'm doing at home with my family? And how am I doing at work? Those three things. Once you do that reflection, I think there's value in getting others' input. That's a part of the process. So now I go to somebody in my family or somebody close to me, and I would share with them, like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I see. Can you tell me if you see something else in me that I'm not aware of? Because now you're not only doing the personal reflection, but you have some accountability or somebody that's acting like a helper person. And they might say, well, I understand what you're saying, Jason, that your analysis from your perspective is good, but here's what I see. Okay. What I see is you seem to come into work or you're home a lot and you just seem to be very sad. Sadness is different than depression. They're related, but you're just sad. Because sadness is usually, I've lost something I valued. Well, yeah, I am sad. And then you start, that gives me a key. Maybe I need to go back and reflect on, I did the personal thing and home life and work life. What have I lost this last year that has brought me to that level of sadness? Maybe I lost a person in my life, a pet in my life, like in our cases. Maybe I lost a job. See what I'm doing?
Or patient.
And then I would go from there and talk to as many people as I feel comfortable with, also getting their input before I make that final decision. Because a lot of times we're not as aware of how we're being perceived by others as well as much as they are, and they can give me a perspective that can be really helpful.
No, that's a really great explanation. I'm probably one of all of them that needed to hear that as much as you guys did. So I think that's a great note to end on. So I want to thank you, Dr. Rodney, for joining me here today, and for those of you who have joined us to listen in. I hope this was helpful as we near the end of 2020. Thank you. Hopefully 2021 is better for a lot of reasons. Please remember to
it can't
like
be worse, really.
No,
It can't be worse.
No. Please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. And don't forget to check the description for additional details and a link to more information about our DVM support network, our wellness rounds that we host. If you're wanting more information about My Pets Wellness, you can visit us at mypetswellness.net. Again, thanks for listening in, and we'll see you next time.